I made this video so all of you know how much I love and care for each and every one of you. And I wish you all the best in everything that you do from this moment on. Your grandfather, Papa Phil. My grandfather was Harry Wallach, and my grandmother was Lena Wallach, who lived also in Brooklyn. My grandfather and grandmother came from Russia. They were immigrants, but spoke very good English. And he prospered in the fish business as a wholesale fish dealer. And he made a lot of money during his life. My grandfather could never move his fingers due to his hands in the ice all the time. Arthritis set in and his hands were straight as a board. Never complained during his life whatsoever. They were the two best people I would know. Two kids, my uncle Max and my mother Ray. Max Wallach, which was my mother's brother, who in those days, he didn't have financial advisors. You had people that advised you. They didn't give him a name. And he was a lawyer. And my grandfather, through my uncle, which took my grandfather's money and invested it in the market. And he lost $100,000 in one day. My grandfather never said a word. My grandfather, Klinkenstein, I never knew them, saw them. There is not a picture of them at all. Only the Wallachs, my mother's father and mother. My father's family, he had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My uncle, Gus, who lived in New Jersey, changed his name from Klinkenstein to Kaye. They all followed him in turn. Changed my last name before we got married because the rest of my family, my father's family, changed their name to Kaye, K-A-Y-E, so we changed it anyway at that time. My father was a Captain Democrat from the Henry Street settlement on the east side for over 25 years and was connected to Tammany Hall, and all the mayors of Jimmy Walker and Al Smith and Governor and Senator Lehman were all friends of my father. And whenever you needed a favor, politically or otherwise, my father was there to do it. My father was known in Tammany Hall as a bagman. He collected rent for city-owned property that he was responsible for, and this money went into City Hall to the Democrats to distribute as necessary for many, many years, maybe 25 to 30 years, at which time he had a limo in front of the house every single day. He never owned a car, but there was the limo every morning. My father bought a roller rink in Coney Island on Surf Avenue, right above where the trolleys terminated. He sold the skates. The skates were worth more than the rink. Of course, no one had skates but my father, so he made his money on the skates. Whatever he made was a lot of money. I worked there a couple of nights a week for a couple of years before I went to school at the University of Miami.
What'd you eat in Coney Island? Nathan's Frankfurters.
Sure.
Everybody ate Nathan's Frankfurters in Coney Island.
They were a nickel. My mother's name was Ray, R-A-E, Wallach, her maiden name. My mother was stone deaf from the day I can remember, and she read lips better than people heard. My mother was the best mother and grandmother anyone could ever have. My grandfather bought me a bicycle for my 7th birthday. In those days, there were bicycles that didn't have air in them. They had hard rubber. Every Friday night, I used to get on my bicycle and go to my grandmother's house, and I used to pick up gefilte fish, which she made every Friday night. Well, my grandfather brought the fish home on Thursday night. I picked up challah and gefilte fish in a big black bag every single Friday night for many, many years that we brought home to have on our Friday night meal. And a bunch of kids jumped me on Avenue J in Brooklyn and stole the bicycle. Upon hearing this, my grandfather, the very next day, went out and got me the same bicycle for the 2nd time. That's a good story. My mother used to write, when I was in camp, my mother used to send me 10 cents and a stick of blackjack gum every letter she ever wrote to me. At the end of the summer, I had a handful of dimes. I was a great camper. I was an all-around athlete. I had 7 years of camp, and one day I called up my father after 7 years, and I says, I want to come home today. And he came up and got me and took me home. I had enough. My bar mitzvah was held in the basement of my home on Avenue I, which my grandfather bought for my mother without a mortgage. So he must have had some money, I guess. And we had all of Tammany Hall and all the Democrats at my house that one day that I was bar mitzvah. My friends all went to James Madison High School, and the boundary put me to Erasmus Hall High School. So I left all this, the Rams AC. We had 15 members of a club, and it was mostly athletics, and all the kids were in the same public school, and they went to Madison, and I went to Erasmus, and then on to Midwood. But we hung out together for about a good 10 years together. I have an article from the Brooklyn Eagle that says, I slept on Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn for a World Series game between the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Yankees with all of my club members overnight to watch the Yankees beat the Dodgers. Oh, I could never finish high school. I was drafted before I got my diploma. The war started when I heard it on a football game on a Sunday. I was listening to a Giant game, and they interrupted the broadcast to tell us that Japan had just bombed Pearl Harbor. And after that, the draft started, and they picked me, as well as most of my old friends were drafted. So they mailed me the diploma. I went to Camp Patrick Henry, Virginia, and was put on a troop transport after doing basic training in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I jumped out of an airplane, parachute-wise, 2 or 3 different times to qualify for the air courses that I was in. Well, after flying over the Himalaya mountains some 70 or 80 times and doing all these things around the airfields, and jumping out of a plane in Springfield, Massachusetts, which he doesn't believe to this day, my wife. Where we were in Mission, Burma, the Japanese, some 5,000 troops attacked the airport that we were building. And the British came and wiped out these 5,000 Japanese soldiers. They took no prisoners. You hear? You like that word? No prisoners? And they killed every single one of them. That was the bloodiest part of the whole war for me. While in service in Burma, I wrote my mother a letter, V-mailer was called, to send me bottles of Pepsi-Cola. She mailed me, it took about 3 months to get there, which I put in the Irrawaddy River in Burma to get ice cold. We were building a runway in Chakulia, India, and the plane was being built in Seattle, Washington by Boeing. It was called the B-29. It would make the B-17 look like a fighter plane. The size of the plane was over 100 yards across, the length of a football field. It was a huge plane. It had 20 men in it. On June 6th, D-Day in Europe, these planes were sent to Chakulia to land to bomb Japan. But on D-Day in Europe, these planes took off to bomb Japan to coincide with D-Day in Europe. In the New York Times, on the bottom of the page of the invasion of France, there's a small article on the front page saying that 20 U.S. bombers, B-29s, bombed Japan on that day. 10 planes never got back. There were 20 men on each plane. I got engaged with this ring to a girl named Elaine before I met Rita. And in service, one day I get a letter saying that she's breaking it off, and in the letter was the ring and the diamond, which was unheard of, and I'm wearing it on my pinky right this minute. The only thing I remember very well, which Rita hates, was General Arnold. You ever hear that word? Hap Arnold, it's called. 5-star general, the first 5-star general, the Air Force. He says how the Air Force, the government could send over 5,000 pilots and crew members in one boat. Look, we could have lost the war. And I was stuck in India until the boat left. I had to wait for it to come back to get me, to take me home. And it went the wrong way. It didn't go back to New York, the boat. It went through the Suez Canal again and went to Seattle, Washington, at which time there was a blizzard. I was carrying jade and teakwood with the elephant on the tree and a whole bunch of stuff, no clothes, in this big duffel bag. And this captain says, you can't take that bag on the plane. And we stood arguing and arguing. He says, take off without him. And the plane went right into the side of the mountain in Seattle, Washington. I called my father. He said, walk the rest of the way. A good friend of my father was a gentleman named Herbert H. Lehman, who was a governor of New York State and a senator of New York State. He had to get me out of the Army when I went to Fort Dix. I had too many points in the point system, too many decorations, they called it fruit salad, and war medals. They were discharging guys with 50 points. I had about 96 points. 2 years, 7 months, and 11 days I spent in the Air Force.
Oh, God, who wants to see that? But today he was ahead of his time, your father.
The eagle has landed. It's an eagle.
That he got in the war in India for 60 cents. He always had a bargain.
Got infected. My arm was like this.
In India, can you imagine?
I was on a 3-day pass.
Drunk.
The GI Bill entitled you, if you were a serviceman, for 4 years of education, if you had enough time in service and enough points to qualify to get this 4-year education, which I did, and I took advantage of it to take the business course in the University of Miami. I took business administration and I graduated in 1950. My sister had a friend named Claire, and Claire had a friend named Rita. And 2 and 2 are 4, we went out on a blind date. We went to the movies. My wife is worried about this beautiful outfit I bought from Crawford Clothes. You never heard of that. They used to give you 2 pairs of pants with the suit and the vest for like $19. It was a chocolate brown suit with pinstripes. With that, I wore blue suede shoes with crepe soles. I weighed about 175, 180 pounds at that time. I was 5'8". I am now 5'4". I weigh 140 pounds. And with Rita, after a year or so, we got married. She gave me a gold, solid gold, 14-karat watch, which cost at that time $75. Solid gold. This watch today is worth about $4,000 or $5,000. This little 70. My name is under the glass on the watch.
I met Phil on a blind date. I had come home from Syracuse University for summer break. Papa had graduated from University of Miami. This was 1950. My friend Claire and Phil's sister Ruthie worked in the same office, and they arranged the blind date. Papa came to visit me in my apartment on Westminster Road with a brown pinstripe suit with white stripes and blue suede shoes with a thick cork sole. That should have told me the kind of a dresser he would be for the rest of his life. But okay, it didn't matter because he had a new car and he was a nice guy, and that's how we met. We've been married for 63 years. June 17th, 1951 was our marriage date.
The love of my life,
No, be
my
serious.
best companion, my caretaker.
That's for sure. All I can say is he's the luckiest guy the day he met me. I always say God was looking down at him when when he met me. He was quiet, I was always outgoing, but I guess that's the way it is in most marriages.
The week before we were to be wed, I was fired from the job that I had in the drapery fabric business. It was not for me to begin with, but my father got me the job through his connections, and I took it sort of temporarily, and it filled the bill. Her father got a hold of me and made me take a construction course at CCNY in New York City, which I took for about a year and a half. While living in Seaford, the builder had some land that he wasn't going to build on, some 21 plots next to our development. My father-in-law bought that land from him, and I became a builder. And we built 21 houses right around the corner, brick split levels. I went into business on my own in Huntington, Long Island, and in Greenlawn. I built about 150 houses. Time after that, I built apartments, hotels, motels, office buildings, you name it, I built it. So I'm very tired. After staying in this apartment for a couple of years, 1 year, it was a nice apartment. We bought a house in Seaford, Long Island, a brick split level, for $18,490. And I had my first child in that house, Stevie Kaye, his name is. He was born in Brooklyn, and we took him with us naturally. While living in Seaford in this beautiful house, we had Stevie and Ellen, and then we had another child called Lainey Kaye was born. At the time Stevie was getting bar mitzvahed, we were building a house in Great Neck in the University Garden, so we knew when we were moving, when he would be bar mitzvahed, we would immediately move into the house in Great Neck. My three children all went to Great Neck High School, and they all graduated from Great Neck High. My son Stevie and Yafa got married. Parents came over from Israel, and Yafa was late for her own wedding. And the next wedding was my daughter Lainey, who married Brett, who had two children named Ross, who was named after my mother also, and a little guy named Andrew, who was not so little anymore. Then came Ellen and Billy, Dr. Billy Warner, who got married and had twins, Daniel and Adam, which looked nothing alike, which was followed later on in their lives with a little daughter named Rachel, who was named after her grandmother, Ray Wallach, who was my mother. Every single morning of the twins' lives, and Rachel as well, I gave them breakfast every single morning, and I took them to preschool and to kindergarten for years at a time.
What would I yell when you were driving? What would I say to you when
You're always going the wrong way.
I'm not going the wrong way. I don't like him to go too fast, especially when we have the kids in the carpool. He doesn't know how to stay in a lane. He's always driving the line.
Never had an accident, never.
But I will say he's a good driver. At 90, he's still driving very well.
My grandchildren are terrific for the world they're living in. It's a new world compared to the world I was living in. Everything is computerized, and everything is .com, and everything is telephone, and there's less talking at this time as there were in the years before. There's more relationship and more warmness toward people, knowing and seeing and touching them and being with them than being on the telephone all day long, as a habit with all people are today. Every 2 minutes, everyone has a phone in their hand. Their hand is shaped like a telephone. My advice to you in the future is to pay more attention in your schoolwork rather than the phones and games that you play with your computers. To do the best you can for as long as you can, while you can. You should treat everyone as fairly as you treat your brothers and sisters, and to do everything as fair as you can, no matter who it is at any time, to do your best. And you should be a good guy to everyone that you meet, and leave with a good taste in your mouth as well as theirs. Family is forever. If you ever have an argument with any of your member of the family, you must make peace, not war, and keep it as peace, so you live together as a family the rest of your lives in good health and good spirits. Any problems that you have, you should talk over with your family, your mother and father, before you do anything drastic. I love my children as much as I can when I see them, which is not often enough, but my wife talks to them incessantly all the time. I would like to see all you kids grow up to be good, strong, steady people with loving families the way we were during my day on this planet. But I wish you all the luck in the world and the very best that you can do with your lives as I did with mine. I made this video so all of you know how much I love and care for each and every one of you. And I wish you all the best in everything that you do from this moment on. Your grandfather, Papa Phil.
Hi kids, this is Nana to some, Mom to others, Mother to others. The purpose of this video is for all of you to have something to remember for posterity about Papa and his life, and a little bit about me. I want you to know, to my 3 children, Steve, Ellen, and Lainey, you're great kids. You have been with us all the way, all the time. We love your choice of mates, Yafa, Billy, and Brett. I hope this video will bring you satisfaction when Papa and I are not here. You look at it now more than ever, and then it'll be less and less. But I want you to know your grandparents loved you desperately. Even if we're not here, we'll be in your hearts. You'll always be in our hearts. And I want you all to remember, my children and their husbands and wives and my grandchildren, family to Papa and I are what's most important. If you stay together, that will be your reward. Family, you cannot replace family for anything else, not for money, not for friends, but you gotta look away. Not all of us are perfect. Listen, Papa and I had 63 years of marriage. There were really a lot of times where you said, oh, forget the whole thing. You don't. It's staying together, raising your children, having family. You have cousins, aunts, uncles. Stay together. Be there for one another. Don't hold grudges. You hold a grudge, you're finished. Boys and girls, life is hard. You're going to have times where things are not the way you want them to be. Don't be discouraged. You know, Grandma, you know me, I'm an optimist. Things do work out. I found out in life when things are bad, you can't give up. You gotta keep fighting. All you kids, just be optimistic. Work your hardest. Do your best. That's the name of the game. If you give up, you lost. We've been very lucky to have 5 terrific grandchildren. Adam and Daniel, Rachel, Ross, and Andrew. You're terrific kids. Papa and I love you so much you'll never know. We try to be there for you for wherever we can. Things don't come easy to anybody. You gotta work for what's important. You gotta be good people, good to each other, kind to each other. Don't get discouraged when things don't go your way. That's all I can tell you about life. I mean, those are my parting words to you. We will always be here for you when you need us. How long Papa and I will be around, God only knows. Hopefully it'll be for another good couple of years. I'll see Daniel maybe being, a senator. Adam, a high accountant. Rachel, don't give up. You're going to be that engineer that you want to be. And Ross and Andrew, well, you haven't decided what you want to be yet, I know. But kids, you got to work, you got to read. And Ross and Andrew, be kind to each other. It's your only brothers. What else can I say? Papa and I have had a good life. We've had good homes, good children, great grandchildren. We've done good trips. And by and large, God has been good to me, giving us 3 great great kids and their spouses and 5 great grandchildren. So more than that, and we're in good health, and hopefully you'll all be in good health. And to my children, I hope you enjoy your children as much as I've enjoyed mine. And to my grandkids, be kind to your parents, love your parents, make them proud of you. We're proud of you. And be proud. That's the most important thing is, kids, be proud of yourselves. Do what you want to do, but you got to work for it if you want it, and then you'll be proud of yourself. So more than that, those are my parting words to you. We love you desperately, and we will be there for you as long as God lets us be. Love, Nana. Okay? Yes, of course we're glad we married. Aren't we glad we married each other, Phil?
Are we happy?
I want your kids to know it was a good run. Hope you have as good a run for 63 years. Although I wasn't 34 like all of you were when you got married. I was 21.
To stay married for 60 years, you stay out of trouble having no salt, no sugar, and no sex, in that order.
Cook for Phil is really a challenge.
Spaghetti.
The only thing he really likes is spaghetti.
Angel hair.
Angel hair spaghetti. What can
And
I
I
do?
cut it with a knife in pieces.
And everything is Parmesan cheese. What can I tell you? He's not a gourmet eater. He doesn't have to chew. His mother always told me he doesn't eat steak because he doesn't like to chew. He doesn't eat lamb chops. He doesn't like to chew. Anything he doesn't have to chew. That's
But I
what
like real lettuce, not greens, real lettuce, white,
iceberg.
crisp,
Who eats that today? Anyways, okay.
with a lot of Parmesan all over the highway.
Please. Okay. For the kids, Phil. Do it again?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. He knew a good thing when he saw it. What can I say?
I love you very much.
Be serious. He doesn't know when to be funny and he doesn't know when to be serious. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I hope you enjoy this. We did it for you, and you can have it forever. Okay? And say you were proud of your grandparents and your parents. Hopefully.
Love you.
We love you. Throw a kiss. Throw a kiss to the guys. Mwah.